The AU theme that we are gathering under has really done great work in terms of ensuring that the people of Africa are not left behind. Progress is made in terms of providing justice for Africans, people of African descent, through reparation. We commend the African Union for these monumental steps in addressing the inequalities that have faced the people of Africa, that has left a huge scars to their well-being, that has been passing from generation to generation. The AU, in line with this initiative, it is crucial to recall the outcome of the significant historical gatherings, such as the United Nations Conference on Racism, Racial Discrimination, Xenophobia, and Related Intolerance. One of the most pivotal outcomes is the Durban Declaration and Program of Action, which is often referred to as DDP-A 2001. It acknowledges people of African descent as victims of slavery, the transatlantic slave trade, and colonialism. These historical injustices have left enduring consequences that continue to affect those communities across the continent, even today. As we recall this Durban Declaration, it also highlights that people of African descent continue to experience discrimination, both as descendants of these who endured the transatlantic slave trade and as recent migrants. We have seen the plight of migrants in our continent, fleeing the continent, hoping for better livelihood. The Mediterranean Sea trauma continues to traumatize us. Why? Because the economic conditions, the political conditions, the democracy that is stolen, that is continued to be attacked, is causing all these challenges that I'm speaking about. The declaration underscores the importance of acknowledging this ongoing struggle and addressing the systematic barriers that perpetuate inequality. Moving forward with reparation. In this context, the AU emphasizes on reparation is a call to action for the international community. It encourages a collective effort to rectify historical wrongs and foster a future where justice and equality are realities for all people of African descent. This move aims to not only address past grievances, but also to pave a way for a more equitable and inclusive future. By recognizing these historical and contemporary issues, the AU's initiative seeks to inspire global cooperation and concerted effort to bring about meaningful change, ensuring that the rights and dignity of Africans and people of African descent are upheld and respected worldwide. The AU we remember how AU strongly condemned the continuing racially discriminatory and violent practices that were perpetrated by law enforcement across the world and agencies that are targeting people based on the fact that they are African or people of African descent. They condemned the racism conducted that led to the death of George Floyd on 25 May 2000 in Minnesota. We were all saying Black Lives Matter. We should continue fighting for the rights of people of African descent across the world. And the death of many others that faces this kind of scourge. And also condemn the structural racism in our criminal justice. We need to continue promoting some positive efforts and giving education to our children and future generations. Ralph Budge, he received the 1950 Nobel Peace Award. This Ralph was the first African American and person of color to be honored in the history of this prize. This Ralph, he was a United Nations mediator in the Palestinian conflict. And many of us, when we speak about human rights violations and what is happening in the Middle East, it's not the first time that we raise the African voice. So we do have people that have already been playing this role. And we want documentation and the African Union to own some of the developments that are taking place. In 2015, the United Nations declared the International Decade for People of African Descent, 2015 to 2024, to promote respect, protection, and fulfillment of all rights and fundamental freedoms for people of African descent. In this forum, we need to reflect on the progress that we have made, how our countries are implementing their resolutions, especially giving effect to the decade, changing the lives of African people in our continent. There's quite a number of them. There's cultural diversity celebrations that are taking place and awareness raising. There's educational reforms. Some countries, they are bringing reforms on education in opening spaces for migrants in their country. And then also the economic development. The economic development programs, we've seen how other countries, they are increasing efforts to support entrepreneurship and economic opportunities for African descended communities through grants, training, and access to capital. Health and well-being as well. We've seen some countries opening opportunities, allowing access to health for people of African descent to have better health and life. They have launched even addressing disparities in health services and outcomes. While other countries, for example, are closing doors to migrants and people of African descent. They deny access to health, access to education, and documentation. Statelessness remain a big challenge in some of the countries. Other challenges that we are seeing is the post-colonization, which is black-on-black violence. We need to emphasize the founding fathers' founding principles of solidarity, of unity, cohesion, and integration in the African continent. And the current challenge as well, mainly faced by migrants and people of African descent, which I've mentioned, is discrimination and also coupled with deportation. We have seen the traumas that facing our people in our countries. This exacerbates the challenges and also undermine the very theme that the AU has adopted. It undermines their dignity and their rights as individuals. We are calling for action. As we call for action, we also want to deposit the new phenomenon of colonization, where a third state country deportation has been a resolution that the Trump administration has promoted, attracting many countries because it comes with the economy. We will be encouraging to name and shame those countries that have been receiving deported, the so-called deported people, criminals from the United States of America. Eswatini, South Sudan, Rwanda, and Ghana are countries that have been engaging in such agreements. We are calling the African Commission to urge member states to encourage termination of those agreements and the return of those deportees into the African continent. The AU Constitutive Act is very explicit about the journey, the trajectory that we want to take. Even it conflicts with the Agenda 2063. It also conflicts with our constitutions. It conflicts with the democracy that we are preserving. And we are calling that this resolution be endorsed, be supported by the African Commission so that member states act decisively in ensuring that these agreements do not form part and parcel of our continent, which is addressing past injustices of colonization. We will not have people here in our continent harbored in some secret prisons somewhere underground for the love of money. Let us condemn all those crimes. Let us condemn. I would like us to stand up, observe a moment of silence, remembering the slave trade and the transatlantic that had taken place in our country. Thank you so much. Thank you.